Welcome back to Wellness Wave Radio. Thanks for tuning in this morning to ride the wave with us. Each week our goal is to give you at least one suggestion that will make your life a little better. My name is Phil George. I'm a clinical biochemist, a certified personal trainer, and a health coach. Please remember that everything we discuss on the show is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice. Always seek the guidance of your medical professional. So we have an interesting show today. Many of you guys probably may not even know this exists. I don't know if this is happening in Leicester or not, but it's all over Worcester. And I believe it's kind of all to the suburbs too. So National Grid is putting in what they call smart meters. And so people don't know what smart meters are. Before, what they would do is, in order to read your electrical, and I think even your water, they have to come out and look at it, send a person. So what they decided to do was to use what's called smart meters. And what these smart meters do, they give off a very specific type of frequency called non-native EMF. And that EMF stands for electromagnetic frequency. So we can get a little bit into physics here. So one of the issues is, and the title of the show was what you don't know can hurt you, or what you can't see can hurt you. Give you a good example. Unfortunately, a lot of people think if you can't see it, it can't hurt you. But I'll give you a good example. So obviously, if you're outside, you got a little bit of 5-mile-an-hour wind, that's not a problem. You got a hurricane, it could kill you. So different things, even though you can't see them, they can actually hurt you. A good example is, I got to look this up, but I think it was in Cuba. We had an embassy in Cuba at one time, and all of the ambassadors from the United States were in this particular hotel, and they were getting sick over and over again, and they couldn't figure out why they were getting sick. And they found out that what the Russians were doing, or what the Cubans were doing, they were bombarding them with radiation, basically to the walls. They can't see it, but they were getting really, really sick. One of the things I need to realize is there's a really good book called The Body Electric. We're really energy machines. We run on electricity. We have different frequencies that go through our mitochondria. The powerhouse of the cells communicate actually with photons, with light particles, and they talk to each other. So, in fact, interesting. You guys have probably heard about, if you're out in at nighttime, they have these goggles that can actually see you because you're giving off radiation. We're giving off radiation. We can't see it, but at night with these very specific type of goggles, they can actually see our light. In fact, that's one of the things. Snakes don't actually see. What they see is they see our thermal radiation coming off of us, and that's what they wind up biting you, because they can actually see you. Same with insects. Insects can see things we can't see. They can see radiation coming off of us. So what happens was with these smart meters, again, it's non-native EMF. Let me just back up. So there's native EMF and non-native EMF. So native means coming out of the earth. So we have something on the earth, whether we realize it or not, it's called the Schumann resonance. And the Schumann resonance is a very particular frequency that comes out of the earth and goes into our bodies. That's actually a good thing, because what happens is, unfortunately, most of us in the West, we have a bad diet. And most people's body's pH is very acidic. It means we're supposed to be more neutral, but we lead more to the acidity side. The problem with that is, one thing is our body doesn't work well if it's not balanced, if we don't have what's called homeostasis, or also called allostasis, where our body's pH is in balance. Our kidneys are supposed to do that, but if you overwhelm the system with too much of this acidity, cancer cells love acidity, so it produces a cancer environment that we don't like. What happens if we get this non-native EMF coming out of the earth? It changes our pH from more of an acidic to more of an alkaline. That's one of the reasons why, if you talk to a real estate agent, they're going to tell you the most valuable real estate property is by the water, right? People like being by the water, but they also like being up in the mountains. And the reason for that, when you're by the water, it magnifies the Schumann resonance coming out of the earth. And what people also what they call grounding, where they walk around barefoot, And they feel better for that, because what happens is your shoes actually, they have a lining on them, and the Schumann resonance cannot penetrate it very well. So by going barefoot, what's happening is you're getting a big dose of the Schumann resonance. When I used to go to Florida every winter, what I used to like to do, again, I'm a biochemist, I like to walk in the water, obviously barefoot, and what happens is the Schumann resonance is magnifying. The other thing, what happens with water, it also gives off a lot of these, they're called negative ions. In this case, the negative ions are good for you, because what it does, again, the negative ions changes your pH to more of an alkaline as opposed to a less of an acidic. So that's the reason why people like being by the ocean so much, because you're getting all of these electrons coming in and changing our pH. That's why you feel really good while you're by the ocean. The other thing is, with the ocean, it also cleans up the air, so you're getting clean air. You're getting detoxified. That's why people like the ocean so much. And obviously, if you're going to the beach, you're going to be barefoot, so you're getting the Schumann resonance coming off it. Other thing people like, they also like the mountains, right? The mountains, you're up high. You're getting all of these ions coming out of the plants, and they're cleaning out the CO2 and giving you really clean oxygen. The other thing that plants do is they also clean the air. It's like an air filter. It cleans out the air, so you're getting that part of it also. One of the things funny, because the new kitchen, what I would suggest that the owners there, they put a lot of plants in there, which they do. If you walk into a new kitchen, there's tons of plants. And people will go in there and they feel good being in this particular restaurant. They don't know why they feel good. They feel good because they're getting clean air, taking out the CO2, putting in clean oxygen. It's taking out all of the pollutants out of the air, because plants, what they do is they clean the air. So that's the reason why people like being in nature. In fact, the Japanese talk about what they call tree bathing, where they just like being out in nature, because again, the plants clean the air. You're giving off all of these ions coming into you, and you're feeling a lot better about yourself. That's why people like nature and being out in nature. So that's native EMF. So your nature, this is what's good for you. And non-native, obviously, is the opposite. So what happens with these smart meters, again, they give off this called non-ionizing radiation. It's coming off. What it does is you have something in your body called calcium channels. And what happens, calcium comes in and out of your cell. It also comes in and out of your heart, comes in and out of your brain. So that's one of the issues in terms of these calcium channels. So what they're finding is, with these non-native EMF, it messes up your calcium channels. In fact, some people are hypersensitive to these non-native EMF. In fact, they're so sensitive, it'll make them really sick. I was interviewed actually on 4 different shows. One of them was in DC, one of them was in North Carolina. I was on Joe Mangiacone's show on WCRN, where my show is broadcast out of, and I was also on Mike Wade's show. And I talked about this, and I just talked about it on my past show too, these non-native EMFs. And Joe Mangiacone, he's also a detective, and a lot of people on CRN are, hopefully you are too, are very concerned with our privacy and what can happen with privacy. So one of the things that these smart meters can do, they can have a lot of detailed information about you. They're going to know when you go to bed. They're going to know when you wake up, depending on your different amount of electricity that you're using. They're getting, again, with artificial intelligence now, they can hook it into these smart meters, and they can figure out basically, how many appliances you have, how much electricity you use, and the rest of these things. So one of the things that happened in California, they wanted to charge different people different amounts for the amount of electricity they're using. Now, whether you agree with this or not, but it's not so much on the electricity you're using, but how much money you make. So if you're a high income earner, they may charge you kilowatts. In other words, if you use so many kilowatts, they're going to charge you more than another person that doesn't make as much money as you do, and charge them less money. So again, they can only do this with smart meters. So they're going to know an awful lot about you. I think with these smart meters too, when I read about it, they were saying they also may be able to see how much water you're using. They'll be able to know an awful lot about you. And whether that bothers you or whether it doesn't bother you, I don't know if I want the government that involved with what I'm doing. But as I mentioned on Joe's show and other shows I was on, my main concern, I'm a biochemist, I'm a health coach, I'm worried about your health more than about your privacy. I'll let them worry about your privacy, but I'm worried about your health. So what they found, one thing it does is it also could interfere with your sleep. In fact, I printed this up. So it's saying here, the other problem is they found out because the way it works with the smart meters, it runs through your copper wiring too. With your copper wiring, if it gets overheated, it can cause a fire in your house. So they're finding out there are several houses caught on fire due to these smart meters because they just overheated the electrical system. That was one thing I looked up. The other thing it's saying here, it causes sleep disturbances due to melatonin disruption. So melatonin is your sleep hormone. So what happens, going towards night, you release more and more melatonin, and the melatonin helps you sleep. And they're finding out these smart meters can interfere with that. It can also cause headaches, fatigue, and brain fog in sensitive individuals. And again, this doesn't happen with everybody. The other one is the potential oxidative stress and neurological symptoms. So oxidative stress is what's happening is, we talk about oxidation. So Art basically, he deals with cars. So if you've ever had a car and it's got rusted, basically what happens is the metal starts coming apart. So the definition of oxidation is loss of electrons. So you're losing the metal coming off of it and it oxidizes, you get rust. So oxidation in your body, you're basically rusting yourself from the inside out. It can cause a lot of oxidation when your body is just not working, correctly. So again, my concern with these smart meters is they can do a bunch of this stuff. In fact, there was a TV show on a while ago, these people that are very, very sensitive to this non-native EMF, they can't even be around it. They get really, really sick. There's a place, I believe it's in New Mexico, where they don't allow any type of this non-native EMF within like 50 or 100 miles of it, because they have a very specific telescope that looks into outer space and they can't have anything interfering with it. So they have whole communities around these places where they don't allow any of this non-native EMF. So the purpose of the show to give you at least one suggestion to make your life a little better. One is most people have routers in their house. So in case you don't know, so you have your internet coming in direct line into your computers. You can get on the internet, but if you want to get on your phone and stuff like that, and you want to get you have what's called a router. The router gives off the signal to your phone, to your and also to your anything you want to use in terms of Wi-Fi. We have Wi-Fi in here right now. And again, there's an expression, I worked in toxicology when I was in the lab, there's an expression, dose makes the poison. We can't avoid this non-native, it's everywhere, but you want to minimize your dose to it. So what I do when I go to bed at night, it's a simple thing. On your router, underneath, where the Wi-Fi is, you just unplug the router, because while you're sleeping, you don't want to be having exposed to this non-native EMF coming out of your router. So I unplug it when I go to bed. Then when I get up in the morning, I re-plug it in. But while I'm sleeping, I'm not being exposed to all of this non-native EMF that can mess up my melatonin, cause oxidation, interfere with my sleep. Just like with anything, again, a little bit of physics, the closer you are to the device, the more damage it can do. You probably heard you don't want to be putting your iPhone up to your head because you're being bombarded with all this radiation. You want to go on there, you want to go on speakerphone. Keep it away. So the closer you are, the more damage it does. Just like remember when they dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima, what happened is the people that are right there, they got fried. But the further are you away, the safer you are. You're just getting some radiation, but not that much. You also heard maybe a lot of times people that live close to power lines, they come down with a lot more cancer because they're exposed to this radiation. They're really, really close to it. So you want to keep yourself away from the radiation as much as possible. So in fact, when I was on Mike Wade's show on CRN, he brought with him, he got a thing on his door saying we're going to install the smart meters. If you want to opt out of the smart meters, go back to what they call the analog, which doesn't use this non-native EMF, you can do that. Here's the catch, guys. They're charging you $26 a month to opt out of it. You know, I don't know about you. My health is important to me. I'm willing, and I've already opted out. So I go back to the analog meters, but they're not using this radiation coming off of it. There's an expression in statistics. Correlation doesn't prove causation. So right now, you know, the government is saying the amount of this radiation is not sufficient to cause damage. But if you remember way back when in the 40s and 50s, everybody was smoking, and the tobacco industry was saying, and the government was saying, well, we don't know if smoking is causing lung damage. But now they know years later it does. Everybody's different. Okay, if I smoke 2 cigarettes right now, it's not gonna cause lung damage. It can cause a little bit of damage. In fact, somebody was asking me about smoking marijuana, and I'm not saying marijuana is good. I'm not saying marijuana is bad. But vaping, anything to do with you're taking smoke into your lungs, it's doing damage. It's going to do damage. It's going to do damage to your lungs. So if you're going to do marijuana, I suggest doing the gummies and stuff like that, or brownies or something like that. I wouldn't suggest smoking it. Don't suggest smoking or vaping either. In fact, they're finding out a lot of young people now winding up with a lot of lung damage because they're smoking. So again, everybody's different. You may not be sensitive to this non-native EMF. I may be. Some people are hypersensitive. In fact, one of my friends, he told his wife this, and she's in Auburn, so I think it's coming out to Auburn, and she said, well, maybe it's a conspiracy theory. So she started doing her own research on this, and she says, whoa. She says, yeah, this says right here, I'm looking it up online, can cause problems. In fact, she mentioned to her husband, after they had installed these smart meters, that she was having trouble sleeping. Now, there's you guys have probably heard of the placebo effect. You know, you believe something's good for you, so even though it's no effect happening on you, but because you believe it, it's true. In fact, the placebo effect is very, very powerful. In fact, they know a lot of times the drugs have to overcome just a placebo effect. But there's something else called the nocebo effect. It means you believe something's bad and you're going to have bad reactions to it. Your body's very powerful. If you actually believe those things are happening, pro or con, it can have an effect on you. So he's speculating, and he may be right, he may be wrong, that maybe just her believing it is causing her sleep interruptions. But again, I read, you know, these are from the studies. But again, correlation doesn't prove causation. Okay, let me. So it says over here, non-native EMF. This includes a Bluetooth and everything else. In fact, what I started doing now, I think I have it with me. I used to use the Bluetooth things in my head. You know, if I wanted to listen to. Let me pull it out here, and I hope interfering with my microphone. Here we go. So I used to use the Bluetooth in my thing, but I talk about this stuff, and maybe I should take my own advice. So what I did is I stopped using the Bluetooth, and now I got, for my iPhone, I got these things. It hooks right into my iPhone at the bottom. And now what I try to do, I try to go walking down at Worcester State College. There's a track they have. It's kind of out. I talked about all the being woodsy stuff, all the ions coming off of there, and being good for you, and I'm also walking in nature. So now when I listen to my podcast, I'll put it up over here and I'll walk around, so I'm getting the sun, I'm getting all the plants, I'm getting all the rest of this good stuff, but I'm not getting any of this non-native EMF through my Bluetooth, so I'm using this now. So you can get this on Amazon. If you want, email me, philgeorge@charter.net. I use some Bluetooth. When I go to the gym, I got these headphones, and they are Bluetooth. Because I'm running around. I know my iPhone right next to me all the time. So what I do is again I'm using the wired. In fact, when I was on Joe's show, and obviously I'm being bombarded with non-native EMF right now. But there's another thing you got to think about. If your body's in good shape, if you're healthy, you're going to be a lot more resilient to this type of radiation. So again, if you're healthy, you may be able to do better. But all our genes are different. You have different set of genes than I do. So maybe your genes are not necessarily conducive to deal with this non-native EMF, and maybe mine are, or vice versa. But the other thing that they found in terms of, again, with people, you probably heard of arrhythmias, tachycardia, and things like that, or AFib. So what happens is our heart is really a calcium channel. A lot of calcium going in and out. As I already mentioned, the problem with the calcium channels, these non-native EMFs messes up the calcium channels. So let's say you have AFib or tachycardia, this could make it worse. I'm not saying it does. I say that it may make it worse. So there's a lot of conflict on this, but I would rather err on the side of caution than err on the side of having this non-native EMF. So if you're worried about your privacy, that's one issue, and if you're worried about your health, I think that's another issue. So all of these things put together, again, right now they're charging $26 a month, but there's another show that's on my network, and she talks about, it's called Health Freedom. I think it's Health Freedom Radio. And they talked, remember before, and everybody wanted to get the vaccine. They wanted to force you to get the vaccine. Some people had some pretty adverse effects on it. I see maybe a lawsuit coming against this, not to force people to put this into their house and to charge them extra money to do it. In other words, if you think this is going to interfere with your health, it may not be the best thing for you. So again, I suggest you may look into it. And if you start having negative effects, the other thing I forgot to mention, you probably know with drugs, with pharmacies, they go by your body weight. In other words, you taking a specific prescription medication affecting you, and you weigh 150 pounds, but your child is 50 pounds, it's going to affect them entirely differently. Just like a dose makes basically a dose makes the poison. So you may be able to take a certain amount of a drug or even a toxin, but your child may not. So my speculation is, if you get children in the house, these non-native EMFs are going to affect them a lot more than it affects you, because they're a lot smaller. They have a lot less body mass than you do. The other thing, they have a whole different physiology than you do. So even if it's for you, you may want to think about it for your kids, because them being exposed to these type of things can cause a big problem. So again, if you want, you can email me, phil.george@charter.net. I'll send you the studies that I have on this and how it works. But the other thing is, again, I give seminars all over. So if you want me to basically come out to your business, or you have a group, we did a lot of stuff. In fact, the Commonwealth of Mass hired me to go in and do seminars over here at the Senior Center. So if you have a senior center, you want me to come out, or the other thing, I've teamed up with an ICU nurse, and she's also a holistic nutritionist. And we come out together and we do seminars. Again, I'm dealing with a mental health agency down in Plainville. We also are giving seminars at different places, in terms of if you have a senior center. Or actually what happened, I was contacted by one of my listeners, and she has a condo association, and they're putting the smart meters in there too, and she asked me to come out and give a presentation to her particular homeowners association, things like that. So I think we're coming up to the end of the show. So feel free to email me, phil.george@charter.net, or you check out. I also have, if you just type in Wellness Wave Radio on any different parts.
5 minutes more.
5 minutes. It's hard to make up 5 minutes more. Seems like it's really lasting a long time. So.
You got it right on.
I got. See if I smoke marijuana, I could. A time distortion. So again, if you want us to come out to your particular senior centers and do that. If you have any kind of, in fact, I had my blood drawn done at Quest, and a woman there, she was a big runner, and she was asking me a lot of questions about running and things like that. And she belonged to, I guess, Worcester Runners or something like that, and she wanted me to go out and basically go over there and just talk to the group. So if you have a group where you're dealing with running or a cyclist or anything like that, and you want me to come out and give a presentation, I can bring my friend Kelly with me. She's an ICU nurse, has a different perspective. She's also a certified holistic nutritionist. I also, I want to mention too, because I unfortunately on my show I have a lot of medical professionals on there, and I had Eddie Arus, and he was on the show a couple of times, and he's a vascular surgeon, but he has a new procedure right now to do with knees. In other words, a knee replacement is a big time operation. It doesn't always go very well. In fact, I had somebody had mentioned that their aunt had a knee replacement, and she couldn't bend her knee anymore. So a knee replacement is a big deal. So Dr. Arus, what he does is he has a procedure in office covered by most insurances, and you can put off your knee replacement for a really, really long period of time and not have to deal with the knee replacement. You know, knee replacement is a big deal. So again, email me, philgeorge@charter.net. Just type in Wellness Wave Radio, any of your browsers. I'm on YouTube. I got podcasts. Obviously, I'm on this show. This show's turned into a YouTube, broadcast. So we do that. I'm syndicated actually nationwide, so that we're all over the country. Actually, now all over the world. If you want to type in, and we have different things. Also, if you ever want me to cover a particular topic on the show, or if you want, I do a free consult. If you want to contact me, philgeorge@charter.net. What I do is I'm a clinical biochemist, which means I specialize in lab work, to where I actually teach. I actually taught medical students clinical procedures. I'll go over your lab work with you, recommend new lab work, and email me, philgeorge@charter.net. And we'll be back next week. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, bye, guys. One of the most common questions I'm asked as a biochemist and health coach is, what are the best supplements to take? Choosing supplements is a tricky business. Many companies have poor quality control and questionable ingredients. In the past, I had to send clients to several different websites. I am now able to offer one-stop shopping for all the quality brands I recommend, with no shipping cost and a lower price in most cases. Just email me, philgeorge@charter.net, for a free consult.